Greetings from a fishing village on the Atlantic coast. You've tuned in to podcast Portwenn, celebrating the world of Doc Martin unofficially. I'm Chesla Wexler, and we'll be discussing Doc Martin, the medicine, the mayhem, and the marvelous people of Portwenn. Welcome to podcast Portwenn. Today's episode brings Patty the Doc Martin newbie back. Before we start, the last chance to donate to Buckham Fair is August 2nd, 2026. Thank you to everyone who supported that cause. In this episode, we do intersperse a number of best medicine comments, so sorry about that if you're trying to avoid those. If you have questions you wished I had asked in this video, please comment on it on YouTube. If you have questions for Patty for future seasons, please send me email at chesla@podcastportwenn.com. I don't want Patty to see spoilers. And now, on to the episode. Patty will bring her perspective on Doc Martin Season 3, quite an eventful season. Patty, come through, and welcome back to podcast Portwenn.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Great to see you. So, hey, take us away.
I found season 3 interesting. I felt like I learned more about the characters. I was sad that Mark was gone. And even with 7 episodes under my belt, I'm not real attached to his replacement. He brings some humor to the show. He's quirky, but somehow I miss Mark. And I kept thinking that they were going to bring him back. This guy wasn't going to work out. Mark was going to decide he didn't want to be, what is it, a plumber in Poland or something?
Yes.
Whatever it was. I was going to say, he's going to say, no, I'm really, small town, whatever they call it, not sheriff, but
Constable.
Yeah. So I was looking every episode for Mark to come back. And then when Al, who was missing for a few episodes, did come back, I was like, okay, Mark's going to come back in the next episode. But no. So we get through the whole season with no Mark. Yeah. So, I had a couple of lines that I thought were really funny that I noticed in a couple of different episodes. In the first episode, there was a woman and her daughter was causing all kinds of havoc, and they were trying to convince Martin that there was something wrong, and he first didn't want to believe it and so forth. Anyway, so the mother is arguing with him, and he called her Mrs. whatever her last name was, and she said, "It's not Mrs. I'm divorced." And he said, "I'm not surprised."
Yes.
That seemed rude, but so Martin.
So Martin, yes.
That really made me laugh. And then the other one was a couple episodes later where it was an older woman. Where is it? Where she wanted to smoke, and he was like, "No, you can't smoke." And she said, "But my mother smoked until she was 93." And he said, and then she died.
Yes.
No, she lost her pipe. I am pretty much a militant anti-smoker, always have
Me
been.
too, yeah.
But you know what? When you get to be in your 90s, I'm kind of like, if that makes you happy, when my mother made it past 90, I wasn't really worried about, she didn't eat quite as healthfully as she did when she was younger, because she would be convinced that, this vegetable or that fruit was impacting her and so forth. And I didn't even try and figure out if it was or wasn't. It's like, you got some food in you today, you're happy, okay.
Yes. Your judgment changes over time.
Yeah. So I was not expecting that line, because I thought it was going to say, and then she died. And, after that line comes out, I'm like, why didn't I expect that? What's the matter with me? How did I not see that coming?
I think one of the beauties of the show is the writers surprise you in good ways.
They still surprise me, yes.
So it's not a predictable show.
I feel like watching this show accents a little bit maybe the difference between Americans and Brits. We have a lot in common, but not everything. And so I often find myself wondering, now, would a British person be surprised by that, or is it just me as an American? I don't know.
We have folks who watch the podcast who are from England, and so that's a good question to put out there.
Yeah.
What surprises you that may not be surprising us? I mean, you won't know what doesn't surprise us or surprises us, but it would be good to know what surprises you.
Yeah.
The episode, did you have more lines that you found were funny?
This isn't exactly a line, but that same woman whose mother lost her pipe at age 93, what was it? She had tuberculosis, I think, and she ended up having to go to a hospital. And he said something like, "Because you're decrepit, you won't have to pay for it," or something like that. And I found myself looking up to see what the British version of that word is. And I think it's a little different from here. I think in the US, that would be really, really bad. And I think from what I read, and again, your British fans can tell me if I'm right, it seemed like it's a word to use if you're elderly or frail or maybe lower income, and not so much like decrepit means real in the US means really falling down, and it's a real insult.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily quite as much of an insult in Britain, is what the
Yeah,
impression
it'd be
I
good
got
to
when I
know.
looked it up.
There's a couple more that I've picked up on that. There's she's dementing. So like if somebody has dementia,
Yeah, you wouldn't
they
say in the US that would be, yeah.
unusual. I mean, I don't know if it would be an insult, but it's like she's dementing. Like, And then what was the other one I was thinking of? When somebody has a seizure, we would call it they're having a seizure, but he's fitting.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
That to me, it doesn't necessarily have a negative connotation in the US. It's
Correct.
just not the phrase we use.
Right. But it takes a bit to pick up the terms. And I don't know, have we had too many words that get pronounced with accents on accents on the different syllables? Because that one's thrown me.
There was one. What was it? And it
I remember
made me look it up. And it wasn't autism. It was something that was a syndrome named after a person who was like Hungarian or some other country.
Okay.
And I feel like if that's that guy's name, you should be pronouncing it the way that guy pronounces his name. And sorry, you don't get to pronounce it differently.
Right. Oh, funny. Yeah.
That was my attitude, but I can't remember what it was.
I'll have to figure. Well, we know it's in one of 3 seasons, so
yeah.
If we really wanted to find it out, the episode you were mentioning where the little girl she's been taking her mom's diet pills or whatever. So yeah, I think the little girl is Delph. I forget the mom's name, but there's some lines in that show that just catch you, because just when Martin says some children are just bad, right?
Yeah.
And then he also says something along the lines of, my father would slap me with a belt or hit me with a table tennis bat if I did something like that.
Yeah, I remember the table tennis one. Yeah.
And you start to pick up on, okay, we know these parents were pretty miserable from season 2.
Yeah. Right.
And his mother certainly denied him love and gave him fundamentally emotional abuse.
And
but now you're picking up that he's been physically abused as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we start learning a little bit more deep things about this character. I mean, I would not at this point, when you start learning things like that and seeing parents like that, you might understand. When we would have Best Medicine episodes, I would say, well, I kind of view Doc Martin as being a drama where funny things happen. So I'm wondering if you're starting to get that sense of what I meant by that now.
Drama where funny things happen. Yeah, I think that's true I agree for Doc Martin.
So what other fun things or episodes?
Let's see. Well, the one where Bert stopped being a plumber and started a restaurant, and so Doc Martin installed his own dishwasher, and that turned out to be a problem, caused a lot of problems, which is kind of interesting, because I had mixed feelings about whether I thought Doc Martin would get that right or wrong, because, in today's world, and this is maybe just enough older that it wasn't as easy, but I still think, you look at a YouTube video and you could follow along if you had any mechanical ability at all, and I would just think he would. So in some ways I was a little surprised he got it wrong. However, it's probably not the thing he ever had to do growing up, even though he grew up in a house without love. I think they had money and paid to do this, so it's not like he ever got trained by his dad or anything, or his mom.
Right.
So when it turned out that he did that all wrong, I was half surprised and half not.
Sure. And because we know also that this is something that's a little different, like a dishwasher you might have growing up, and your dad might show you how to do some basic plumbing things. We do see in an earlier season where he knows how to set jumpers and memory and things like that on his own computer, because he fixes things, right? And then he unfixes them to give Al a job.
Right.
But that's something that he would learn later in life when he's independent of his parents, and it was probably a useful thing to him.
Right. I was going to say, it's useful. He needs to use a computer in his job, and so he needs to, therefore he would, understand how to use it. It's not clear how much cooking he does and how often, he might not use his dishwasher as often as somebody who likes to cook a lot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And dishwashers don't break that often either, usually.
That's correct. In that same episode, I think, isn't that where Poppy comes and substitutes for Pauline or something?
Yes, it is. She was.
I liked the Poppy-Pauline interplay.
Yeah, that was kind of fun, seeing, a little bit of like jealousy or whatever. And much as Pauline wanted to take the phlebotomy course and, have a little more skills and be a little bit more than just a receptionist, she didn't want Poppy to succeed in a way,
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, that was interesting and probably very realistic,
I mean, Poppy just had like an insight, like an easy insight. Why don't I give the patients their patient notes and they can bring them in?
Yeah.
And it's like, great idea.
Yeah.
Pauline's not happy about that.
Yeah.
So what else did we have in season 3?
Let's see. Oh, I found it a little bit interesting, the neighbors that didn't discipline the son.
Yes.
And I just found that whole thing interesting. And it seemed like pretty much everybody, not just Doc Martin, crotchety Doc Martin, were not very sympathetic with that kid being allowed to do whatever he wanted to do and key people's cars and do things that were really damaging. And so, parenting philosophies come and go. And that wasn't a gentle parenting era. So only those two parents, thought the way they did. Everybody else around them, including Louisa, who's a teacher and with kids all the time, and you would think would be very well versed on different techniques for dealing with different issues. Right. Whereas Martin would just lash out. But they all thought that this kid was out of control. And so I found that interesting.
Didn't the parents drive you nuts? Because I'm not a parent, so I try to back off on parental commenting, but I just found
the fact that they thought it was okay for their kid to do these things and not even be told he shouldn't do them much, they thought of punishment is kind of a separate issue, but not even to tell him that, it's wrong to key somebody's car.
Or, he breaks a bowl and it's like, well, we don't make a big issue about it. I was like, at least have the kid apologize.
Have the kid apologize. Have the kid clean up the mess he made, even if it's an accident. Yes. Who caused the accident? Who did it? It's just But the one thing that came up in that episode that, again, I found myself looking things up to see what dates things were, was they talked about the vaccine autism link, and Martin cut it off pretty quickly, and I was like, ooh, this is interesting because this was sometime in the 2000s and it was not fully quashed yet, I thought. And so I looked it up and found that the paper written to link them was in 1998 by a British doctor. And in 1999, there was a study that said, no, we don't see any connection. And by 2004, a journalist had exposed the conflict of interest for that original doctor that wrote the paper, and the 10 out of 12 of his co-authors retracted their interpretation of the data. And so this was done in 2007. So that was still fairly recent, but this show, made no bones about saying there is not a link, there is not a link.
You'll find, I might have commented already, I might not have told you, but I guess in Britain, when you film something that has medical stuff, you're supposed to be correct. You can't just make stuff up and say this is the treatment for whatever and it'll do this, or these are fake symptoms for XYZ. So they had a doctor who advised them. He gave them a number of cases that he had come across his desk that were amusing and interesting, on which they based episodes. But also he was there to make sure that when they had a disease, it had the proper symptoms and the proper treatment. And so coming out and saying, the vaccines don't cause autism was probably something, if they're going to talk about the vaccine and autism, they have to come out and say the right thing. Yeah. Which is good, unlike,
I just was surprised how, it was pretty close to, it was like 3 years since they really, really got exposed.
So a real topical thing.
Yeah.
One thing I enjoyed in that particular episode, doesn't it seem like Martin and Louisa are kind of on the same page?
Yeah. Like, whoa, they agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
The nice person and the crotchety doctor agree that this is, horrible behavior with this kid and whatever. Yeah.
Is that also the episode when he comes over for dinner? Because I'm remembering that the dishwasher episode and Louisa's stove not working were the same episode. Yeah.
The dishwasher episode was 2 and that episode was 3.
Okay. So, but.
Yeah. The one about my mother smoked until she was 93 and then she lost her pipe was also episode 3. It looks like.
Okay. But I like when Martin comes, I guess, does he think she has anemia or something? And he comes to dinner and he brings her like yams.
Yeah.
He's just so socially inept. I'm like, that's what you bring. And then, Louisa, you look very busy.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what's he going to say? And he says busy.
And you're thinking it's going to be beautiful. Like
she was really thinking that this was going to be a compliment, and she was really looking. And then he said busy.
And I think he was thinking of complimenting her with beautiful.
Yes, it sure looked like it. It was like he froze and just picked some word that was also true, but yeah.
Yeah. And he needs, stuff sneaks out of him in this season, right? So we saw him at the end of season 2 when he's really, really drunk speak how he feels, even if he doesn't remember it the next day.
Right.
But in that episode with Sam, the horrendous child, doesn't he say, you'd be a lovely mother?
He did say that, and she looked like surprised and pleased, but then they parted. There was nothing after that. That might have been at the very end of the episode. I can't remember.
But he seemed to almost be surprised that came out of his mouth.
Yeah, I think she was. She was.
Yeah. So there's some stuff going there. Like, we still don't have, I mean, when we enter season 3, we obviously don't have necessarily the best relationship, and we kind of feel like, how did you feel as things went on? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that happens. I just think this is a very eventful season, right?
Well, I can't compare it to the ones that come after, but yeah, I think there was a lot going on in this, and not just for Martin. I mean, the episode that focused on Auntie Joan, I don't know if it focused solely on her, but she had a big subplot. I was like, whoa. I was kind of surprised by her. And Martin comes and says he might have an Oedipal complex, and she got all mad. I don't care because it's fun for me, and you're trying to take my fun away, and blah, 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 which it's her life. She has the right to make choices. But I felt like she was kind of denying at that time that it was an Oedipal complex. And then later in the episode, she's like, yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he sort of apologized, like, I shouldn't have interfered in your life. And she's like, you were right.
You were right. Yeah. And she also has the hormone replacements in there too, right? So she's feeling her age.
Yes. What I was wondering was the painter, I can't remember his name, but his mom died, but what kind of relationship did he have with his mother? Because if he hung around with her and wanted her pie and was like looking for comfort, but not sexual comfort, that would have all made sense to me with grieving. But this was like, was he doing this with his mother? And that's what, I was just, we never really learned that, but that's what I found myself wondering.
And it's funny because I never thought of that.
Okay.
But now I am.
Didn't mean to put that idea in your head.
Well, even with Auntie Joan, it's like you can't unsee Auntie Joan on the table,
Yeah.
You just can't.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Not expecting that, writers.
No, exactly.
There. And then here is another phrase. I don't know if this is a British thing. Happy as Larry?
Oh, yeah.
Happy as Larry?
That's a British thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
Things
but
like
then
that.
You had said before about their relationship and how that moved, Louisa and Martin's. And so you have episode 5 where they go to a concert, and it seems like something they have, in common. And he was really trying to sort of see her side and try something she liked and so forth. And then he starts talking about mood swings, and he just can't stop himself from saying the wrong thing. And she breaks up with him, and then by the end of the episode, and he's so sad about it, and then by the end of the episode he says, will you marry me? And I was like, what do you really say? Is that I mean, okay, it's season 3, but is that a little fast? Is that a little, they haven't really had a date that didn't end that way, or even a time together, even if it wasn't an official date like that. And now you're saying marry me? And she said yes. I wasn't actually as surprised that he said it, but when she said yes, I was pretty surprised.
The two of them just seem like they're so drawn to each other for completely inexplicable reasons.
Well, not completely inexplicable. I mean, he thinks she's beautiful, and I think, if he had a different childhood or something, he might have been more outwardly compassionate But we do see things over the seasons where there's something down inside him, like when he paid off his dad and said, don't bother Aunt Joan about the house and don't tell her that I did this. That was, he recognized how important she was to him and what she did for him. And he wanted to help her. And so you don't see that very often in him, but I think she sees that. And so I think that's what, and she, when she was trying to explain to her bridesmaid that in the next episode about who had never met him, well, what's he like? Well, he's very honest. He's very, and it all sounds very positive. And then the bridesmaid meets him and she's like, oh, you weren't what I was expecting.
Yes.
Yes. That's a good line,
Yeah.
So I think that's what she sees in him. And I think he sees some of that good in her. And she is beautiful. And so I don't think he can articulate what he sees in her at all. But I think he does see something real, So
yeah, I think he sees her care because she pushes herself into his life. Like, you get the sense that he'd probably be fine if people just left him alone.
He thinks that, at least.
Yeah. But she not only... Like, he gets a lot of people who call him Tosser and who take him to task, right? But she takes him to task with sort of a improvement, like, I want to like you.
Yeah, and it's more like, Martin, I know there's some good in you, but bring it out,
Yeah.
Whereas some people are just like, you're a jerk.
Right. Yeah. I found in the episode that had Mrs. Wilson, who was interested in him, right?
Yes.
The lady who owned Carrie Wilson or whatever.
Yes.
There were a lot, if I recall, there were a lot of very good examples of the two of them just missing each other. Not Carrie and Martin, but Martin and Louisa, just like lots of, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember some stuff off the top of my head.
And there is a lot of that, which is why I was surprised that at the end of season 3, that, like, it seemed kind of quick to say marriage, because they haven't fixed any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that she said yes, really surprised me. And then the next episode is planning, like, what is it, 3 weeks?
3 weeks, yeah.
Throw together or attempt to throw together a wedding, and it was like, so.
Yeah, I mean they're mature adults, right? So he's what, 40 or something?
Yeah,
Who knows?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
how old
it's
is
not
he?
like they're 21, but still, I just still felt like you need to smooth some of this stuff over, figure out how you're gonna deal with it. Like I said, and I think it was season 2, that it seems like, she knows that he's blunt, rude, take your pick, which word you want. And why is she surprised when he says things that he does, like about mood swings or whatever? And why, if she's really loves him and envisions a future with him, she's got to say something like, Martin, come on, do you realize how rude that sounds? Mm-hmm. Rather than forget it and just run away.
Yeah.
So she's got to figure out how to deal with that, I think, rather than say forget it and run away, if they were to actually be married. So
yeah, they don't seem to be necessarily, like you said, working on practical solutions for the relationship.
Well, he is. He just, she needs to get breath mints. She needs to, he thinks he's telling her helpful things. And but even that one, she didn't get as upset over that. I mean, I obviously she didn't like it, but I thought, okay, there's progress here. She knows that he's really just trying to help. And, if you don't have a bed partner, you may not know that you snore. She really
That's right. Yeah.
I suspect she really does snore. I don't think he was making that up.
Yeah.
And once again, he thought he was being helpful, and there might have been a better way to phrase it, but he's Martin. So
he's Martin.
Yeah. So I wasn't as surprised. I was surprised that he asked and she said yes. I mean, I wasn't surprised that he said, I miss you terribly and I never want to be without you.
Yeah, they certainly, because they led up to that, right? You saw how incredibly crushed he was.
He was so sad. And Aunt Joan said in there, you weren't meant for each other anyway, or something like that, which I was like, really? I'm surprised she said that. And so I wasn't surprised, given how sad he was, that he said that to her at the end. But when he followed it with, will you marry me? I was like, what? And when she said yes, I was even more, what? Yeah. So the whole next episode, where every single thing is going wrong with this wedding, no vicar, the bridesmaid's water broke, all the stuff with the venue and so forth, and the florist, and that was kind of predictable. And her having second thoughts, I wasn't as surprised about. But why did he have second thoughts? Like, how did he suddenly forget how sad he was when she broke up with him before? So why was he contemplating, like if they had said, this isn't the kind of wedding we want, this isn't us, this isn't, or we shouldn't do this right now, or something like that, but to say, I will never make you happy, you'll never make me happy, we're breaking up, that surprised me and didn't ring true to me.
It shocked me when he proposed. Chris and I were like, yes, on the couch. Like, did you see that coming? I did not see that coming. Because you can just see, like, he had been so sad. He had been up all night thinking about the fact that she never wanted to see him again, right? I mean, he still had the little flower in his buttonhole, right? And
Yeah.
Auntie Joan, when Auntie Joan's telling, you two are chalk and cheese, he's fighting her on it. Like, people can change. It's fine, or whatever he says. I don't remember what he says, but I just remember the chalk and cheese thing. She likes people you don't. Was that part of it? I forget.
Something like that? Anywhere? Yeah.
But she looks at him finally, because he's not saying much, and he's just right on the edge of tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to me, it's like he really, really does not want to be without her.
Right. So what happened on the wedding day? Why was he sitting there thinking it wasn't a good idea?
I think I can explain Martin well, which is he really wants what's best for her, and what he thinks is
he's not going to make her happy. Not that
he's
make him happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and you don't get a sense that he ever thinks like is he ever happy? Like, can anything make him happy?
I really want to watch the rest of the seasons to find that out. And
no wonder you for everybody out there in listening world, Patty texted me on, I guess, Tuesday, I finished season 3. When do you want to do the episode? I was like,
I'm always torn, because I'm always the person that, particularly if I'm reading like an historical fiction novel, I like to look up, okay, which of this is real and which is this was in the author's mind. And so when I waited the whole season for Mark to come back, and then I couldn't resist looking up what happened here. The actor wanted to go on to other things, and so sometimes you get a little bit of a spoiler when you look something up, but I just couldn't resist that.
Well, looking at, just since we're talking about Mark real quick, Joe is an interesting character, because Mark, I think, was naive, gullible, but sweet and insecure.
He was nice. He was naive and gullible, but he didn't seem incompetent.
Correct. Yes. He knew his stuff, and he was a very good policeman, even if, like...
You might think he wouldn't be, but he still was. It's the impression I got.
Yeah.
And unlike Best Medicine, where the Mark character there, he doesn't have the same naivety and sweetness. He seems like you feel sorry for him because he's trying so hard to get over Louisa, and he just can't. But that fake macho, it just was a turnoff to me. Yeah. And I wasn't turned off by the Mark in the British one. And so I miss him.
Yeah, I miss, Mark was one of my absolute favorite characters. But I think my theory on the Mark in Best Medicine is that just like Elaine and Pauline, there was a desire to keep a character for the whole show. So they blend some things together. I believe they tried to take some of the charm of Mark and the incompetence of Joe Penhale and the blusteringness of, because trying to think, do we see a lot of Joe? I mean, right off the bat he's like, we need to work together on the crime in town. Like you just like get this
huge crime.
And like he's big man on campus, right?
Right.
And so that's some of that machoism that is coming out in a British way, perhaps, that doesn't annoy us so much.
Yeah.
I think that Mark and Joe Penhale have been mushed together to be Mark in Best Medicine.
Maybe. Definitely. I see it even more with Elaine and Pauline, because the Elaine in the Best Medicine is not totally incompetent. And the Elaine and Doc Martin pretty much was. I mean, I was waiting to see in season 2 if she got a little bit, I was like, gee, she hasn't started to get more competent yet like she did in Best Medicine. I was and then all of a sudden she was gone. So
yeah. And Pauline has now gone to phlebotomy school.
So she's qualified to do something more. Yeah.
So now you understand how, like, okay, in Best Medicine, you've got an Elaine who can do blood work. Well, in Doc Martin, you have an Elaine that's useless and a Pauline who can do blood work.
Right. But the Pauline actually went and got training. Did Elaine in Best Medicine, or was that a little hand waving?
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We know that he's been reported for her
right,
what
for
she's
that.
been
So
doing.
maybe it'll turn out she has a phlebotomy course that and she's qualified. That's probably a good answer for how he gets out of trouble.
Or maybe Maine doesn't license you. Maybe you're just mentored by a doctor or something. So,
Interesting.
I have no idea. Yeah.
We'll see what the American writers come up with. But since we're talking about best medicine a bit here, I just feel like I can't articulate it well, but I feel like the characters, I continue to feel like the characters in Doc Martin are more real.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic because I have not set foot on British soil, so how do I know what a real British person who lives in a fishing village, is really like? But they just somehow seem a little more real to me.
I agree. I mean, I had never set foot in a British fishing village before I watched the show either, but I had been to England in 1991, but I don't think that counts. We didn't interact with that many people. We were just completely touring, but I just think that what they've decided from the writing and the directing and the portrayals by the actors is just a different animal. I think there's a level of authenticity just in how they've decided to portray it. I've said Doc Martin seems to me like these people are still there and the cameras have gone home, but this village exists and these people are still all there because they seem so genuine. And it's because it is sort of a drama with a lot of plot, and you see the through lines with the characters and all. And they're not leaning into the comedy and the slapstick, which I think Best Medicine is it's a conscious choice. That's just how they're making it for an American audience. It's a hit, so it's appealing. But there's people who like British TV shows a lot. There's people who don't like them at all, and people in the middle. So, I'm thinking that the Best Medicine absolute adorers are folks who probably don't like a lot of British TV. Who knows?
I just feel like in the Best Medicine, somehow, maybe it's what you're calling slapstick, that some of the characters are just overdone.
Yeah.
And caricatures. And I really wish I knew if Best Medicine has gay fans, did they like the portrayal of that gay couple? Because I just wonder if it's just a little overdone and a little stereotyped. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I've certainly got a million gay friends, so I could ask if any of them are Best Medicine.
Yeah, I'm just, they seem a little overdone to me. The Mark character seemed overdone. Elaine, to an extent, seems overdone. It's not quite as bad. I don't know why. But anyway. And Martin himself is less. Less rude, less whatever. In one season, he has changed more than it would seem realistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just because American audiences couldn't take it if he didn't change more. I don't know.
We have a reputation of being, loud and coarse and sort of in your face as Americans, I think, compared to Brits, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, but British humor has always been at least stereotyped in the U.S. as being like the British people are so proper, but they come out with these zingers that
it can be very sharp. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't seem like it should come from someone so well dressed and with such perfect diction, Like, whoa, they just said that. Whereas the coarse jokes in America, I think, are more by people that aren't using perfect English,
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know.
But yeah. That's interesting. I'm trying to think other episodes. My heart broke when that dog got run over, boy.
That was... And he picked it up, and I was like, I would think it would have to be dead, and then he's bringing it to, and I was kind of like, maybe it isn't dead, and then it was dead, and I was like, ugh. And then, but actually, it's interesting that you brought up dog, because the dog that Aunt Joan took in because a neighbor died looks more like the dog in Best Medicine.
Yes.
And not the original dog that they had in Doc Martin, who Doc Martin never warmed up to. And Doc Best has already warmed up to the dog by the end of one season.
Yes.
So I found that interesting. Like, did they pick the dog they did for Best Medicine? Is it more modeled after this dog than the original dog? And
yeah, it's hard to say. The first dog in Doc Martin was a very unique looking dog. Yeah, I don't know what kind of breed that was, but he was a very interesting looking dog. And Buddy seems to be more standard terrier.
Yeah, and I'm more partial to bigger dogs, and so the first dog was bigger. But that this dog was really interesting because the way he would just run back towards, you know, you couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, he seems to, I mean, dogs seem to love Martin, right? It just seems to be
Yeah.
his like curse in life is these things that he hates are attracted to him.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
yeah. I wouldn't. I don't know if it fits the character, but I wouldn't be sad if he warms up to dogs eventually. So
sure.
I'll
I mean,
look
well,
for
we're
that
dog
in-
lovers, so like, you know, we don't understand how a person can't like a dog unless they've had a bad experience with one.
Right. You can't like a friendly dog. I have no problem distancing myself from, you know, what I consider mean dogs. You know, if I can make friends with any friendly dog, but I do not have the skills to win over a dog that, you know, initially doesn't like me. It's like, okay, I'll stay away.
Yeah.
So, but that white dog is very friendly.
Yeah, I can win over shy dogs, you know, by being very
Shy is okay, but if you growl, I'm not going to try and convince you not to growl. I'm going to stay
sure.
away.
It's like, okay, we just don't have to deal with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we have here? I thought when Martin tries to be nice, that was pretty good comic relief.
That was. Yeah, I and you get mad because wait a minute, why are you trying for that person and not for me? Kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So,
but just, you know, he actually succeeds. Like Louisa sees the falseness in it.
Right.
But other people are just kind of like is it Dawn Lamb? I think it's Pauline's mom, the one who has the exclusion diet, and Martin's like, you know, how is your stomach, Mrs. Lamb?
Yeah.
And it, you know, he seems like he's being nice, and she's just sort of quizzical.
Like, why is he even asking me that? Like, this is weird. Who is that person?
But it's okay with her. Like, it's all right. Yeah. This is an okay doc, right?
Yeah.
And then when he's dealing with Holly, who is just horrible. Like, I mean, Louisa's friend who hurts her back when she falls.
Yeah.
She's just, you know, you can understand a person in pain, but she's just sort of a bit of a jerk.
Yeah.
But Martin's like, you know, brave girl, in your own time. You know, he's like, how's your get on your tummy? It's like he's using completely non-Martin speech.
Yeah.
And Louisa's just like, why are you being so smarmy?
Yeah, it was interesting that Louisa's the one that's most offended by it, as opposed to, wow, look, he's trying, you know?
Yeah.
Not her attitude.
And I thought his attitude back to her was perfect.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with that? Like, what do you want me to
what do
do?
you want from me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely had sympathy for him there.
Yeah. I mean, he is who he is. And you know, you see when he proposes that it's like he's willing to take her as she is, even if she's super critical of him, right? Because he might even see that this was a theory that I had of why he's okay with her, is that she sort of criticizes him in a way that would improve him.
Yeah,
and
I think you said that before, whereas other people are just calling him a jerk, and yeah.
And she's the prize. Like, if he can improve himself, she's the prize.
And her.
Yeah, so it's kind of like all rolled up into one person.
Yeah.
Like if Bert took the same interest in him to try to improve him, I wouldn't, you know, would he care to improve? I don't know. Like, he doesn't care if Bert's his friend, it seems, right? Yeah. So
I mean, this sounds, you know, very hallmarky, but I kind of think that in terms of falling in love with someone, if they're two good people, they make each other better, you know?
Yeah.
That they can inspire in some way. That I've seen a lot of stories in books or in movies or TV where, you know, they say, you make me a better person. And I think that says it all. I just find that really touching. And I think that's how he views, for the most part, I think that's how he views her. And so I do see what he sees in her, put it that way. And that's why I was a little surprised that he gave up so easily in the last episode of season 3. And for her, I was like, where are you coming from? These things that went wrong today are pretty much not Martin doing something. Well, I guess the vicar, but the vicar was a drunk. So
yeah.
I think
she was just convinced otherwise by all these people kind of cutting him down.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was quick. I mean, it was 3 weeks from their engagement, and they really hadn't had a date.
Yeah. And I still found, like, it was so quick, and then all of a sudden you get, everything was quick, quick to say yes, quick to give up, so.
Yeah. And I think when he was talking to the vicar with the pigs, I think he was fine up until that point, but when that vicar said, do you make her happy? Because he hadn't been thinking of that. He even said, does she make me happy? Which he was convinced, right?
Yeah.
But when he said, you're so close, it's, do I make her happy? And it's like, crap, can I? And he's so insecure in himself, right? I mean, in relationships with people.
I could see that, but then didn't she say, I don't make you happy either, or something like that? Didn't she say?
Well, that surprised me, because...
Did he really agree, or was he just saying that to let her gracefully go away?
I think that's a good question, because that surprised me too. Because he's like, I wouldn't make you happy. You wouldn't make me happy. And like, what do you mean, Martin? You wouldn't?
That I think. And so, I would hope in season 4 he would think that he was lying when he said that.
Yeah, and or he might have very much believed it.
But just 3 weeks earlier, he was so despondent when he he thought it was over. It didn't make sense to me that 3 weeks later he could just think, okay, I can get along without her after all. She wouldn't make me happy, so just...
Yeah, see, I didn't take it that way. I didn't take it, she wouldn't make me, I was surprised when he said that, but it was like, he's just so miserable.
All the time.
All the time, like,
He can figure himself out anyway. He doesn't even know what would make him happy. Yeah.
Correct. Like, it's like, you wouldn't make me happy either. Like, there is no happy for me.
Yeah.
But
which maybe his parents drilled into them.
Yeah. But I want to see what's in the letter that she writes him.
Yeah.
I mean, she says, I do love you.
3, I think you've asked this other times, you're going to continue watching. Season 3 really makes you have to watch season 4.
Yeah. Well, when you texted to me, my first impression was, okay, the enthusiasm and the sort of energy of watching what's next is picking up.
Yeah, I'm not usually a binge watcher, and so I would watch one episode a night, and then there were a couple times we said, do you want to do another one? It's not that late. And so, and there was only 7, not 10, so
right. Yeah.
It was, a combination.
What's your husband's impression?
He likes it. He's actually not that picky with TV shows, so his endorsement would mean less. I think he watches too much TV.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, but no, he likes it, and he can be curmudgeonly, so he gets Doc Martin, but he gets why it's funny, and so I would say he enjoys it. I don't know. I'll have to ask him if he enjoys it more or less than the Best Medicine. I think he likes the British one, a little more.
Yeah, I've got any number of friends who really like Best Medicine.
Really?
But they haven't seen Doc Martin.
Mm-hmm.
But they and I think it's just, it hits a humor that really appeals to them, which is great, because to me it's more Doc Martin for everybody.
Yeah, even if it's slightly different.
Yeah, they're very different animals. You can already tell after 3 seasons of the one and 1 season of the other that they're different shows.
Yeah.
And we've got this completely different explanation of the blood phobia, which to me is so critical to a show that...
Well... Okay, that I think is very American, to drag out, something with the sister, something happened, and his parents aren't exactly nice in Best Medicine, but they don't seem as bad. And you kind of get the feeling there was something with the sister that sort of, like, maybe they weren't even bad before this accident. Mm-hmm. And that changed them, and they never dealt with it properly. And not that it's an excuse, but it's an explanation. And so I think it's very American to try and drag that out as long, as many seasons as they can. Like, if there's any hint that it's not going to have a 3rd season, I think they might resolve that by the end of season 2. If not, if it looks like it's going to keep getting renewed, I think they'll keep dragging it out.
You think?
We'll see.
Yeah. Quick one on another episode we haven't discussed. The one with the Sawle Sisters. I just loved that one. That's the spooky old bat who's treating her sister with antibiotics that she manufactures herself.
That was very weird.
Yeah.
That was just, I went back and forth between feeling like the scientist sister was evil, felt sorry for her, You know, it just seemed like she had good intentions, but it got so twisted, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I did not like her the whole time because, you know, you get it set up from Pauline that like she had gotten fired from her job.
Yeah.
Right. For like, was it killing somebody? Like it was some pretty dramatic thing.
Well, they said she was responsible for she experimented and people died or something. So, and that's sort of what she was doing to her sister. But I don't think she thought she was killing her sister, but still.
Just completely callous.
Yeah.
You know, I had no love for Janet Sawle. I mean, to me, she was bad from the get-go. I mean, she didn't let her have friends. She didn't let her talk to anybody.
Yeah. And the sister was so apologetic, like for even calling the doctor or for having symptoms or for not taking the medication. And for it was, I really liked that sister and felt sorry for her and, you know, rooting for her. But the other one. And then when it turned out the mold in her, here she was, this, in her mind, brilliant scientist, and look at her lab.
Yes.
And why didn't she get sick too?
Yeah. Yeah, really. You know, unless she's worked in it so long that she's built a resistance, who knows? But
I don't know.
I thought that episode, showed us a lot of compassion on Martin's side. We had talked about in season 2, I had said like he goes to Caroline Bosman's house and he breaks through the door, and you had an explanation that was different from mine, which was, well, he's a doctor and this is what he has to do. And it wasn't
whether it was compassion or whether it was
Did your opinion change at all in this season? Because like I thought the way he treated Beth Sawle, the sister, you really got a sense that he cared about her. To me,
both, because, you know, I'm a doctor and she's taking medicine that isn't effective, and you can't do that, and you have to take if she took my medicine, she'd be fine, and she's not taking it, and she's taking her sister's quackery, and so I think that all went against his medical thing. And then I think it took a while, but then he eventually had some sympathy for how hard it must be for her to like fight her sister. So I did see some compassion, but I still feel like he was mostly driven, or at least initially driven, let's say it that way, by the I'm a doctor and I heal, and this is how she can heal.
Because like he doesn't know about the fake antibiotics until the very final episode.
Right.
As far as he knows, she's just not healing.
Right. And but again, there's still that medical puzzle for why is she not healing? She should be healing fine with what I gave her, and he has to know, does she have something else, or why it just, you know, what's going on? And then he eventually figures it out and wants to get her safe, and really tore into the sister. So I think that actually tearing into the sister showed more of the compassion too. But
I thought he might have identified with Beth, the sister with the knee, because, you know, here's a family member abusing her, right?
Yeah,
I don't
which
know
is what he.
Because you know, you find out that
yeah.
So there's like parallels there and stuff, but you've seen 3 seasons. Do you have a favorite season?
I think season 3 made me most eager to see season 4, more so than one did for 2 and 2 did for 3. So probably this one so far.
Yeah. A couple things that I enjoyed about this one, just little subtle things. When Martin wakes up with Louisa, right? And they're sort of found out by the postman. Just his swagger when he's walking up the street after he leaves cracks me up.
And everybody notice and know exactly what happened. And,
well, at least, the postman's like...
Yeah.
So that was fun. And we see Al. You know, Al's gone away and come back.
I did not look that one up, but... I was happy to see him come back just because I don't want all the characters to disappear. Not that Al's not my favorite or not my least favorite. He's just sort of there, but he needs to be there.
Yeah. Yes. So, and he, once again, he gets yanked into something his father's doing, because now all of a sudden he's
restaurant
dealing with a restaurant. And he's got to deal with this guy Mick, who sounds like they've got a past.
Yeah. And he's feeling like his father's favoring him over his own son, and
But Al once again proves that he's, smarter than he looks.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like in the other one, in Best Medicine, Al was more obviously smarter.
Yes.
And here it's like, really? You knew that? Or you could do that? Okay.
Yes.
You came up with a good solution? Wow.
Yeah. He sort of, he surprises you. Because, we're told that Al in Best Medicine got perfect SATs.
Right.
Whereas
Right. So there was no surprise. Right.
Yeah,
But he also acted. He acted a little different.
yeah, and in Doc
And the
Martin,
idea that
it seems like he's older, I think, in Doc Martin than Alan Best Medicine starts, like because
I
he's
think
already
the best medicine is supposed to be like 18. Yeah.
yeah, or 20 or something like that. But
Yeah.
like Al's already older because he's doing this plumbing and he's trying to maybe go to trade school for computer stuff. But they start right out in episode 1 talking about him reading Daphne du Maurier, and I thought, okay, they dropped a hint to us, right? That he's a bright guy, and then he's got the computer skills and he's got drive and that kind of thing. So it's developed a little bit more slowly than Al is just smart, and you learn that right off the bat just with a statement in Best Medicine. And we haven't seen him really do anything other than maybe learn how to coach Elaine in her acting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going to keep watching.
I am.
All right. So, folks watching, I hope you've enjoyed this. I've certainly enjoyed talking to Patty. Love your comments. There's a group of us who have nice chats about every episode. So let's keep that up. If you're watching from England, help us out. Set us straight. Silly Yanks. If we're misinterpreting things or we've got questions, that would be great. Yeah. Like, subscribe, do all those good things. And again, Buckham Fair, running out of time on that. If you wanted to just throw a couple bucks that way, I don't know if you are or not. I think it's great if you do. If not, that's fine too. But yeah, thanks everybody. I hope you're enjoying this. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining Podcast Portwenn. Podcast Portwenn is an independent fan production, not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by Buffalo Pictures, ITV, Fox, or the creators of Doc Martin or Best Medicine.